knee. In response to no 5803's Patang so boing knee. Monty Python reference for anyone who isn't aware of it. Do you guys hear me all right today? So do you want to buy some death sticks? So guys in the chat, can you just give me confirmation you can hear me all right? Yes, great, thank you. Hey Kathy, nice to see you joining. Hey Dalton. Sorry, yeah, loud and clear. I don't know about how loud and clear saying knee is, but I would never say knee to an old woman. That would be terrible. Hi, Ben here from Second Dynasty. We make 3D printable spaceships. If you have not seen our work before, on Fridays we stream our Maya work, so you'll be seeing behind the scenes and how far we've come with our upcoming production, because on the 4th of October we are launching our Kickstarter for Traveller Small Craft. It's officially licensed from Far Future Enterprises, rules agnostic, but just kind of leaning towards the more popular version of Traveller, if you get my drift. So much is happening, so much to talk about. Although, hopefully today it'll be a little bit more practical rather than just repeating all of the stuff that we normally go through. So, thank you to you guys who are joining me in the chat. Nice to see familiar faces and one or two names I haven't seen before. Yeah. Put your questions in the chat if you have any. I will do my best to notice and answer them. Although I am flying solo, Albin's going home. I've kind of got a bit of a bug passing around at the moment at the office. And I officially was out of love with the Modular Cutter yesterday, but am now sort of back into it. I have a plan. It's a compromise. It's the best of both worlds, I would say. You can hear Albin coughing there. He's about to head home. Go back to Starfield. I want to demonstrate my plan for this craft today, but in the meantime, why don't we start with a little bit of show and tell. Bye. And that would be starting with some of the other craft we've been working on. So the 4 craft premiering in the campaign is, and I'm going to circle them, the 20-ton launch, the 30-ton ship's boat, the pinnace, and if you joined us last week, you'll know all about that, and the modular cutter. And some of the choices I've made with the cutter too have been about avoiding the issues that we had with the pinnace. Actually, yeah, I'm going to be calm today, and not devolve into childish things. You know, we're trying to grow the channel, not to lose people. So I think I will switch over to a close-up camera, and I can show you guys how some of the painting is continuing. So here we have our launch. Let me just back up a little bit. So Lisa Lott is currently working on some of the interior files for this. Sorry, I keep putting it in front of my microphone. Very happy with the way this is looking now. But we have also the 30-ton launch. Sorry, ship's boat. And we can see here we've started experimenting with a bit of color, different panel shadings. I really like the way that this is coming out now. I talked to Mick yesterday about filming a pitch video. Oh, it looks like we're missing a piece or two here. And yeah, that's coming along nicely. And then of course, putting that down, we have the pinnace. That is what it is called. Pinnace is a term used to describe a certain kind of ship from the Age of Sail, much like a bark, despite the fact that it sounds like what the other ships look like. So this is only base coated. Albin's done this today, but I wanted to show mechanically. I'm really proud of how the rear end of it looks. The swing wings, of course, do function. They are a little delicate, but they work. Right? Canards also work. And yeah, progress has been great on this thing. Try and get it a bit closer. Ramp, of course, works. Let's see, I just needed to get my finger there. It folds down like so, and actually has ramp extenders based on the globule. So it'll sit like that. Yeah, I really like the way that it's turned out. It sits very firm. Yeah, I like it. There'll still be a little bit of working out to do with landing gear. And we can talk about that because the modular cutter is going to have the same issues. So let's see, I'm just going to look in the chat. Tamsin asks, will there be an alternative passenger central section for the launch? Yes, that is entirely possible. So that would be an expected stretch goal. It's quite easy to achieve for the launch. So yeah, basically you just switch out that cargo section, and there'll be some modifications on it to essentially make it look more in line with the interior of, let's take the tops off. So here we have the passenger section on the ship's boat. I'm just going to copy this door over, freeze the transformations on it. So yeah, essentially this is a similar cargo section, it's slightly shorter, but yeah, we would just do a version where essentially this is extended to 7 squares, which is the length of the interior of the launch. Next question. We should film the painting of the ships. That would be ideal, but Alvin's done a little bit, but not too much. That blasted summer flange asks, Second Dynasty, will you be showing how the modules separate this stream? I will show you in Maya how they separate. I will not be showing physically because there are, like, this is the only test print of the modular cutter I have so far, so it's not a huge amount of files yet. So, speaking of which, sorry, I just took us to the website instead. We have now a new advertisement here for the Kickstarter. I've actually reached out, and we have over 800 people have saved the page. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So 819 followers. Just refresh that. 820 followers, even better. If you're looking for the campaign, it is in the description for this video. So yeah, we're launching October 4th. Very excited about that. Excited by the amount of people that are following us. It will ensure that we do have a good, solid first day. And this time we are looking to fund at a significantly higher level. So rather than having a bunch of different stretch goals that really kind of eat into our profits instead, I have just set the starting funding at the approximate production costs of developing these crafts. It is significantly less than the Beowulf, for example, but we're going to start with, like, the project will be funded at 30,000 euro, which is a lot, I know, but you know, that's less than half of what we made in the last campaign. Hopefully we can get somewhere close to that again this year. And I think this time too, the product is exciting. Other great news, I'm not sure if it was actually decided last Friday or not, but the physical print option is 100% happening. And what we decided to do ultimately is John's going to get a bamboo, and we're going to produce them ourselves. And in the United States, and they'll be shipped from the United States. That way he has full quality control, which I absolutely love because he is very nitpicky, has a great attention to detail, and is concerned about, you know, the quality of our products. The unit price we're looking at is 64 euros. And that will ensure that, you know, both John's costs are covered, our costs are covered, The license cost is covered, Kickstarter is covered, and then of course shipping and handling on top of that. But it will be fairly cheap if you are in the continental United States. It's a premium price, I guess. It's maybe slightly higher than what some people were hoping for. This is what we can offer it for. If you do want it cheaper, it is probably going to be cheaper to just buy a launch and print it yourself. Sorry, buy the STL files for the launch and print it yourself. But we kind of need to set it at a point where it can offset the production cost to some degree. So I think that's a good solution. We'll test it out. We'll probably start with, a more limited run. And if it proves popular enough, we'll add additional units and we'll just scale up, like we'll buy an extra printer or whatnot. Have a delivery time of, 6 months to a year, something that's reasonable. So that's back on, and I'm excited about that. Yeah. Yes, Dalton says, after $100 Canadian, about $100 Canadian after currency conversion costs, cheaper than many Games Workshop models. Yes. Actually, Games Workshop, let's be honest, if they were doing a model with this level of detail, functionality, and whatnot, you would probably be looking in the £250 plus range, right? The difference is this is still FDM printing. We're not using any resin parts. It is the quality you get out of FDM. It is the quality you would get if you had a reasonably good FDM printer. And John thinks he can get down the production times to something ridiculously low. I wouldn't put it past him, because this is what he likes to do for some reason. We love you, John. Really, we do. No, we do, actually. So yeah. Eric DeVoe says, I understand the economics may not make sense, but I'll buy any Traveller thing you make. Well, you are supporting us having the Traveller license. And interestingly, from our last poll that we put out on some of the Traveller Facebook groups, it does seem like people are looking for miniatures of characters with Traveller species and whatnot. That's something we might look into next, although it would require some collaboration with other artists, because we are primarily vehicle artists, you might say. A Justice Toriasan says, and it would be Forge World and half the pieces would be warped. Yes, if it was that, yes. Kathy Millatt asks, Ben, can you please mention the Transport Delta on my Kickstarter starting on the 26th? Indeed I can. So, Kathy Millatt has a new Kickstarter coming out. Do you have a link for that? Do you want to just send it to me via... where is it? I know I backed it already. It should be on... I don't want to load up my Discord here because it's on the wrong screen. Yeah, how can we'll post that in the description after the stream is finished, I guess. Unless you can type it out, Kathy, without it showing us a link. Maybe if you just put like the second part of the Kickstarter link in, or actually I'll see if I can find it real quick. Because I think I've saved the date. Let's see. Saved projects. It should be in here, right? Yeah, is it the Lava Moon one? Or is that was the last one, right? Let's see. Yes, here we go. Okay, upcoming project. I will save the link and put it in the chat now. So, as a part of the Lava Moon, we are collaborating with Kathy and re-releasing our Transport Delta. She has done a fantastic print of it in, is it 35 or 32 millimeter? I can't remember. But it's been scaled up. which is great because it proves that it can be scaled up. But I have also revisited a number of old parts for that and updated them, fixing a couple of issues we found. So yeah, it's going to be 35mm. Of course, our not Y-wing is also being featured, what we call the Epsilon Bomber. So yeah, it's about 25% larger than our 28mm version. So it's always nice to hear that, you know, that still works at a larger scale. And that's one of the beautiful things about 3D printing, that you can actually control that in your slicer. Now that is an awful lot of printing though, and I suspect that the delta is probably 5 kilos at 35mm. I'm not entirely sure. You'd have to let us know, Kathy. But in any case, yeah, go into that project, sign up. It will be at a great price too, but it is just the base version, but it is fixed with a lot of the issues addressed. I think just some to note is, I think the main hull prints, the rear section prints without any supports whatsoever now, I think. We fixed the internal engines so that they now work as intended. There's been some floor alterations. Just general things to make it more printable, tackle printing and dividing up the mesh in a way that, you know, makes more sense. So anyway, yes, that has been mentioned. That's coming up on the 24th, which is very close. It's just, is it Monday the week after next, or is it a Wednesday? I'm horrible at these things. Why can't I figure it out? The 24th is on a Sunday. Interesting date. But yeah, exciting times. Thanks, it's meant to be a Tuesday. A Tuesday would be the 26th, wouldn't it? Unless you mean October. Yes, Tuesday the 26th. Important details. And according to statistics, that's the best time to launch a Kickstarter. Okay, let us turn to the ship of the hour, of the day, of this week, really. The Modular Cutter. A ship with so much potential and also so infuriating in so many different ways. So many editions of Traveller, all of them have this ship, and it looks completely different in each edition. The deck plans are completely different in each edition. There's versions of it where it's supposed to park in the back end of a mercenary cruiser like the Broadsword. I did the math on that one. It doesn't quite work out. Volume-wise, you know, it varies greatly from version to version. I know that GURPS Traveller had twin levels on it. Like all of our small craft have a single level. I know that we have, this is from Mega Traveller, I believe. And we have the launch here. Hej då, Liselott.
Hej då.
Ses ikväll, eller?
Ja.
Ja. So yeah, we have the cutter here on the side. You can see it's not that much longer than a ship's boat, but again, even these deck plans back in the day didn't follow their own rules, so we've taken that into consideration. I also like to focus a lot on the High Guard deck plan. So this is from Mongoose Traveller 2nd edition, which is the version I play. And you can see here they've got a 5-square deck plan. So no matter what, we've got all kinds of different sizes. This doesn't necessarily make sense either, because you could probably have 4 squares wide and a double deck. So there are a lot of decisions to make. I've mentioned in past workshops just how many different iterations and versions I've done trying to arrive at this conclusion. I tried different widths, different fronts, different concepts. What have I settled on after all of this pain? Let's isolate this thing. I did go with a width extension. It's not all that much, but it does require lowering of the landing gear. All in all, if we look at it side by side with other ships, let's see the front view here. Oh, I guess it's a bit long, so we can't see everything. But here in the grid, you can see the launch at this level. So each of these larger squares represents 1 inch at scale. Let me just make this larger. So basically, it drops down 1/4 of an inch lower than the other one, or rather it will be 1/4 of an inch higher. It will mean that it's not perfectly lined up on a table, but, you know, close enough. Yeah, basically the camera here is, let's see, we might actually be able to, let's see, if I select camera and then we isolate it here and move it, sorry, view, select camera there, and we move it back. Actually, why is that front not there? Oh, it's locked. Huh. Is the camera animated? Interesting. I'm going to unlock this if it's frozen. Should be unfreeze selected, but it's been a while since I've been in these settings. So it's not keyed, it's frozen. Or it's linked to something. So maybe if we hit the up arrow, no? Not working? Oh well, whatever. My purpose was to try and get the front of the ship back on, but it doesn't look like it's in a position where it would really actually be an issue. So a lot of things have disappeared here too, so I wonder if Maya's just bugging out on me. I think so. I think so. Because where's the ship gone? This isn't it. Let's see, modular cutter. Cutter front, cutter engine. What is going on? It was just working a second ago. That doesn't look right. Sorry about this, guys. I suspect Maya is being a bit buggy. Question is, when did I last save? Let's see. So I haven't worked in here. It says 152. I'm going to guess that I haven't done a ton of work on this thing since then. So I'm just going to open this scene and hope it's been restored. It must be so entertaining right now because the chat's gone all quiet. Or I haven't scrolled down. One or the other. So Maya, come on. Alright, here we are. And this kind of demonstrates also how this works. Oh my god, hang on a second. Did I just open something that I saved at 152? Oh boy, that's not good. Let's go into our auto saves, and we have one for 312 there. Let's hope that one's better. Rather than losing more than an hour of work. Open. Nobody here but us space chickens. So I'm going to go don't save, and then the first thing we've got to do when this scene does open up is remember to save over the original. So it seems like there's been an autosave while I was banging on about other stuff, so hopefully everything's here. Mostly, yes. MC top. Let's go file, save scene as, and we want to go back into our scenes and save over our production file. Whew. That was a close one. Alright, so how is this going to work? So the issue with the modular cutter, other than the size of the modules and the volume of the ship and whatnot, is that the modules, 30 ton of it, in fact, is meant to separate and be interchangeable. So it's a modular cutter. Hence also the title of this episode. So if I had left the cutter the original length I had designed it at, the module in the middle would be 15 inches long. So that's about 45 centimeters, 15 squares by 3 to get our 30 tons. So the issue with that is basically the length of the ship. Now, you can already see from the size of the pinnace, maybe I need to use the full-size camera again. Maybe Albin's just sick from all the fumes. So here we go. You can see the size of this thing, and let's compare it to the one in here. So you can see that even then, we've probably got another 4 or 5 inches worth of ship to cover with the shortened version, and this would have been another 5 inches longer, so another 10 inches longer than this thing. And it was already getting to the point where it's like, my primary concern is support rods. So usually I don't like third-party items, and I think there's probably a way where we can 3D print the equivalent of support rods. But I have some aluminium support rods that I purchased that I use to add additional support. And the modular cutter is one of the rare instances where I think it might be necessary other than just using clips. And the reason for this is that if you want to have a functional... Oh god, Brian Haven says he's showing us his pinnace again. He should be saving for only ships. That's a good one. We need structural integrity because this particular ship, the modular cutter, needs to hold together when it doesn't have a cargo volume there. See, normally when you lift up a ship, and I can lift up any of these ships and they won't fall apart automatically. They're quite light in comparison. I've only weighed the launch. It's about 450 grams. So we're going to be in that 450 to 1,000 gram range with all of these ships, I think, save perhaps the modular cutter, which coincidentally means most of these ships can be made with just a single roll of filament. We get into a situation where you would have to disassemble the ship and reassemble it with a different module. And that's one way you could go. It would be a simpler way of going. But hey, this is Second Dynasty. We like functionality. And whilst I've had this virus/bug thing, I've been tackling the problem in my head. It's been something I've been thinking about for a while. So let's look at the solution. The solution is to have some kind of slide in here. Now, I unintentionally created what I thought were support rod holes to support our normal 6mm thick rods. I bought 6mm thick rods and realized these are 2mm too thick. The actual size was 4.7mm, so I bought 4.5mm ones. They turned out great. I got cylindrical ones rather than square ones, and I realized it kind of had this sliding effect. There was a lot of room, and then I'm just like, oh my god, I know how I'm going to solve this. So I have divided this ship into 3 sections at present. It's far from perfect, but this is sort of like the starting point. And the idea for detaching a module would be you land on a planet, you get the ship to hover by itself. Well, I guess these other landing gear would extend just a little bit more, maybe. So the module itself lands in the middle. This thing should actually be a part of that cutter module section. So it is a little wider. And then we have the cab, and we have a midsection here where basically, if you imagine there are 2 channels, and in fact I think I've visualized it. So let's get to the point, Ben. We move the cab forward just like enough to get this little thing poking out. We move the cutter engine section out enough to do the same, although you'll have to imagine it's there and there's a bit of overlap here, so I'm just going to move it out further than necessary, just so we can see the difference. This, of course, is not finished, but if I moved it, you could see the rods are in here. And essentially what would happen is one rod stays with the front section, one rod stays with the rear section, and we have some kind of piece here that can collapse out. And essentially, by doing it this way, you can then detach the module. And if we look at the module itself, there are no clips on this forward section. There's actually a channel in this sort of like area where it widens. So it just clips on this thing at the top and then slides in. The clips don't stay super tight, so it will be interesting to test out. I don't know if this is going to work or not. So these rods are not 3mm, they're 4.5mm. And they do have a slight bit of leeway. So yeah, essentially it's going to be a tight fit at the ends on one on either side, so that essentially this rod will stay with the front, the other rod will stay with the back, and we'll have a mating piece in the middle. And there'll still be like a sliding piece there, so it will feel like, I think you'll be able to see the rods, but we'll make it so that it sort of hugs around, I think. So we'll see what we can accomplish. I'm still trying to figure it out. But that is essentially the essence of the design. And that way you'll just be able to drop the cutter modules off. This is not going to be a full loop like it is here. You can actually see that the forward section, I've modeled in what we need. So we'll have a skeleton where the front and rear section, and maybe something in the middle, I don't know yet, we'll have the structure here, because we don't want this to sort of like bend in the middle. So that will be full circular as shown here, and the rear will too, and then you'll be able to just slide off the sides, essentially looking in on the rest of it. So you will be able to see when you take the sides off or the module off, it's going to look quite skeletal. So guys, what do you think of my solution? Let's see. So that Blasted Camouflage says carry-all mode is going to be interesting. Yes, well, I think it will still work out. Structurally, you're going to have a lot of weight on this point, so it's all going to be one solid piece. At least for this first couple of inches. As you can see, this has clip points all around. I still need to adjust this a little bit. I don't know if I'll keep this middle channel in or not. And yeah, the whole idea of like this docking with another ship, in practice, if you want to do that, you'll have to use one of the other modules. This is more the, you know, the space trucker version. Let's see. Brian Haven says, spot for adding magnets at the joint. Dalton says very nice, which is probably high praise from someone that probably knows the modular cutter a lot better than I do. Kathy says elegant. Thank you. Tamsin says sounds like it will work well. Well, in theory, perhaps. And finally, that Blasted Camouflage says, I hope to see some other, maybe less cylindrical modules as well. So, yes, that would be the idea, although we'd be in stretch goal territory. And right now, my chief focus is getting these printable so that I can move on to focus on campaigning and stretch goaling. And I looked at the date today, and it's like the 15th, and I'm like, yeah, we've got less than 3 weeks until launch. Is that right? Yes, I think so, unfortunately. So, yeah, once again, it's going to feel a bit rushed. Fortunately, you know, having those 800 people already signed up feels like a bit of a relief. So yeah, I was just working on this mesh before we got here. I'm going to move these back into position. And what I would really like to have done for the end of this session, and I think it's achievable, is to have something I can throw onto the printer. I don't know where this rod came forward so much, but yeah, I'll move it back a bit. So I'd ideally like to have, you know, I still need to work on the landing gear. These need to be like an extended version. I'm going to angle these out so it just looks like the original landing gear just reaches a little bit further. And I think these will be used for the pinnace as well. That way we could possibly use the original landing gear towards the end of the ship, because this is a problem we didn't really address, and since it's not going to be seen in the pitch video, you can kind of see here we might need a third version, but if you install this at the correct height, we are a bit further down than the originals. Let's see what it looks like from the front. Sorry, that's the side. Alright, so here we go. So this would be, technically if it was at the same height as the other one, it would be around this. So we probably do need to customize it just a little. And I would probably change the direction of these feet a little bit as well. But again, we could probably just play with the angles, shorten it a little bit. It won't look as obnoxiously short as it did before. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of people that would prefer wheels. Stretch goal territory. If there's enough interest, I'll probably do it. If not, good enough. Let's move on. In any case, we'll just have, you know, some stubby sort of landing gear. At the moment, it just sits on the table as is. It does have some forward gears. I mean, I'm not trying to half-ass it, but it's like when you have 4 different ships you're trying to put out, even if they do share quite a bit of geometry, by the time we're finished here, it's actually not as much as you'd think. Like, there's a common theme with the appearance, but when it comes to the actual construction, there is a difference. Like, you can even see here on the pinnace, there's no rungs. This is more like a designed to be a bit more aerodynamic than some of the other ones. We'll probably do a slow pinnace version. It has detachable sides, so you can see the access for the engine. So we have a little bit more work that we need to do to fix this up. Let's see. No 5803 says, I would have thought it was going to be a sliding ring at each end, move one forward and move one backwards to release the cargo module. Essentially, that is what is happening. Wait, what's going on there? Where's the front section? Okay, did we move this too far back? We must have. Well, the default's not where it's supposed to be. Let's just put... Sorry. Let's put this back on the grid. I'm going to freeze the group. So it's set there. But yeah, essentially, that's exactly what happens here. It is a ring. It's just around the outside here. And this will fit rather tightly. I don't think I'm going to use clips. I'm just going to... You can see the 0 tolerance here. And the reason for that is when you've got this circular thing, I think in any case, it's going to have some inbuilt flexibility. I need to test it. This is probably a part of what I'll be doing, right? Test printing this. So I'm kind of in the process of joining these pieces together. I need to decide if I'm going to keep this channel or not. I don't think it's necessary. Before it was like at a different level too, but in theory this would be like where a engineer would creep up and be able to move from the front to the back. Yeah, so we have 20 minutes to get something on the printer. I would like to have the back part and the front part. So I'm just going to, and maybe we'll have a test ring since it's a weekend. This won't be the final version, but it'll just be something I can use to get a proof of concept. And this is already fairly close to being, you know, what we're looking for. It will require quite a bit more work to figure out, okay, how are we going to support the rest of this module so it stays between part A and part B? I suspect we're going to need some kind of horizontal bracing. And I'm not entirely sure how we're going to achieve that yet, but I think the more important thing is like, how is this going to detach? So I'm hoping it will feel quite snug.
Penis.
Thank you, Hannes. Yes, it's a pinnace. Let's see. That Blasted Samouflage says, Second Dynasty, I know this isn't complete, but will the modules have a solid roof? Right now, the work in progress has an opening. I'm guessing the mechanical groove will be there. Yeah, we'll be adding a roof in there. But the roof will be formed to the bottom. So essentially, it will be a case of, we can do this now. I would extend this. Let's put on our grids. I would extend this down like so. There probably does need to be a bit more tolerance here than what there currently is. And I might try and see what this looks like on a grid. That's actually quite a perfect amount. Gonna do the same there. Alright, so that should stick. That's interesting. Why didn't it stick out the same amount? Well, we'll do another trick. We will match this to there, that to there. Whoops. Sometimes I don't select everything properly. And then we're going to move the pivot point over to here, then over to there, and that should have dragged it to the exact same spot. So then we create a bridge between these parts. So this is approximately what this is going to look like. I haven't figured out yet how deep all of this is going to be, how much tolerance I want to introduce. You know, just a few different things so that things don't get caught. Like this might need a little bit of a lip so it easily fits over the slot. So basically, as long as the ship is closed, it's going to rest on these two different side pieces here, and it will be quite strong because it will print like so. And actually, do I need to make some considerations here? I don't know. So I would probably just take like where is the top of the roof here? So we could probably come down as far as here, delete those, just create some geometry across there, and then you've got your very basic top section. But again, these might not have the roof built in. Is there a reason not to have the roof built in? I can have it. But yeah, like, obviously there's going to be a top section. Okay, I see what you're saying. Maybe we do need to have an alternative roof or something for the middle sections for when it's not actually on top. When it's not actually attached, I mean. Let's see. Brian Haven says, what about section tabs along the spine? Allows the spine to shift one segment and then disengage from the module. Then it can drop away like a bayonet mount. Well, the problem there is you would have to have additional openings. And the direction of this coming out... yeah, it's all a question of aesthetics. Technically, too, the other thing, too, structurally, just the front part and the end part are going to be a loop the whole way around, and the rest are just going to be like a little cover that you put on. So I would say having an alternative cover is the best compromise we could come up with, or because the only other compromise is you don't remove the cover while it's on. I can also imagine doing variants of this where it is 2 stories. Right now it's got a central module. And what I would probably actually do, let's see what this would look like if we boarded up half a level. So I want my grid on. I want to see that this is, let's see. So the halfway point of the door should be about here. So there are some considerations that need to be made if you want to have a double decker. It's not perfect. You would have to have a compromise with the floor being a little bit lower. I have tested it out. So you would need to bring the floor down to, like, say there, which is actually only a 1/8 of an inch in difference. I would probably bring it down even further to about here. And then what I would probably do is have, similar to like a double-decker train, that there would be just a little section where you can sort of access the level above. Brian, magnets are never going to happen. Let's leave it at that. Right, so let's see. I want to make this printable in a short amount of time. Sorry, it's a known thing here on the channel. I'm a bit anti-magnet, just in the sense of I don't greatly love the idea of having support rods, but technically we can make 3D printables. But essentially, if you can't make it on the printer out of the filament, I'd rather not use a third-party item if I can avoid it. So whilst magnets would work, I can't. There's a lot of different kinds of magnets. I don't know much about them myself, other than obviously I do understand how magnets work. But yeah, it just adds a third-party product that you're then reliant on. So that is more my issue with magnets rather than magnets themselves being a good solution. Tillgänglighet. So availability is an important thing. So everyone with a 3D printer has access to filament. I'm sure people would be able to buy magnets wherever they are in the world, but the question is, like, is it easier than buying filament? Okay, so we need to make some adjustments here. The question is, do I completely integrate this? I feel yes is the answer, so I'm going to get rid of these conventional clip joints. We're going to remove the ribbing. See, technically I could just have two different pieces here, but I am going to... Support rods can be 3D printed if you don't want to buy brass or aluminium rods and tubes. Yes, it can, although the issue then becomes about how big is your build plate. And there will be some advantages to having metallic ones here because it will aid with the sliding pieces. The filament might have a tendency to get stuck or just be a bit stubborn maybe. Let's see, I think we can get rid of some of these rings. They were probably there for sorting out the ladders, now that I think about it. So that side's integrated, this side is not. We talked about, let's see, I think we could just very quickly do on the 90% angle here. Just want to create a slightly less severe curve. So I'm just going to take these and drop it down to oops, we need our vertex snap-on. So we're just creating a slight bit more of an angle so that when you try and dock it, it's not going to stick out too far. Or rather, geez, Ben, English, come on. Yeah, I just don't want it to, I want it to seat in with its joint a lot better. So one way to guarantee that is to just make sure it's got a bit of an angle at the top so it can more easily find its way into the slot. I can hear myself. Right, so if we want to properly integrate these, I think the best idea to do would be to, I'm concerned that that's not going to look the same on the other side. Let's just do the same thing. We're running out of time. Oh, jeez. Let's see. There we go. I might have one printable piece. Alright. Really, it's only needed for testing anyway, but you know. Right, so I need to also get rid of some of the surfaces on that side. So I think technically what I might do is leave this in the middle, but we're just going to delete the polygons around it for now, and I'm going to extend it back so it's deeper in, like say here, and we're just going to close that off, since in practicality you can't access it anyway. I think in the beginning I was thinking, what if you could take the top off? I know that Blasted Samophone just suggested making the top flatter. I may yet do it. I don't know. It's all a bit... There's a lot of choices to make. So what I might do here is just... Is there any natural point here? Doesn't look like it. So I think I might just see what happens if I pull this up. Actually, no, the better option would be if I can find a line here somewhere. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's not perfect, but 80% on that line. 80% on this line. And then I'm just gonna delete these. Actually, all but those. Delete that. Delete these. And do the same on the opposite. Anywhere where you can sort of see it intersecting. Ugh, I hate this when it ends up taking a lot more time to do something than you were hoping. So let's delete those. And we can also delete the interior parts, and we're basically going to match it up. Now technically there are quicker ways to do this. I could have just had two separate objects that intersect with each other. In this case I've chosen to do it properly, which will require me to remove a couple of faces as well as add the new ones. So I'm going to get rid of all of these. And we're basically just looking to remake the geometry here and get rid of anything that's on the interior part. So we're going to recreate the geometry here as well. So that's going down there, that's going up there. This side needs to be fixed, so that we need to remove that down to under here. I might just, because it's quicker, delete there, and I think I can select there. And we're not really worried about symmetry too much. We're more concerned about just closing the gaps and making this all be one piece. So I think, okay, I thought that was mirrored, but apparently not. We just delete all of these items and we'll recreate that geometry essentially. Sometimes you can just, split a polygon by drawing a line, and then we've always got this vertex snapping on, so we're just aligning it to the same sort of space. This we're going to bring back here. I can see now on the inside we don't really have a full loop. I think we could add that back in, And I'm realizing anyway, I'm spending maybe a bit too much time on something that honestly is just going to get redesigned soon after anyway. This is mostly a proof of concept, right, with just the way that the ring goes together. Let's see, so let's delete that, and that, and that, and that, and basically anything up to here. Should be good. Get rid of that. And then we can kind of get to the point where we just start combining the two objects. So mesh, combine. Wait, this is the right one, right? Yes. Delete the history for now. We'll merge what vertexes we have. And then we start working on getting this all properly joined together and merged. So there's a couple more polygons we're going to have to delete. But once we sort of start establishing it, where the joint is, we can start doing some fills. We can divide this up. Sorry if I'm ignoring the chat a little bit, it's just so that I can get this done as quickly as possible. And hopefully you're still following along at home. I think we can just delete this line. And we need to make this section here line up with there. So it is coming up a little bit. I have plenty of backup versions of this to sort of like look at in the future. And we're just basically reconstructing the geometry now, ensuring that this all becomes an enclosed object, because the number one thing we need with 3D printing is for the mesh to be manifold, that is to say, no holes in it, so that it prints nice and correctly as a solid object. So these are n-gons. I should probably take these and I will triangulate these. You can now see all of the individual polygons, not quads. Again, this is sort of like the quick and dirty version. I can see here I have some gaps to close. So I've missed some geometry I was supposed to delete. That being here. Getting rid of some n-gons too. And then we'll just like reconstruct that. All of this actually, once we remove those. So I'm hoping I haven't removed anything accidentally. So we should be able to close this now. Close, close, close. No, that didn't work. Okay, so that probably means there's something, yeah, along here it's not joined properly. So if we merge vertexes, hopefully that closes now. It doesn't. A good trick of the trade, just delete one polygon, do a new bridge, and all of a sudden, almost all of a sudden, let's see, why didn't that work? You can see here the geometry is a bit wacky, so I just, oh no. Whenever Maya bugs out like that, the best thing to do is to just go back a step and save and then retread. So I'm just going to delete. Why does deleting that remove all of the shading? And is that actually a problem? I don't know that it is. I'm just going to try deleting these two instead first. So I'm creating some bridge geometry. We'll close this up and we'll try a fill here instead. That worked, and that worked now. So, and I think technically this should work now too. Yeah. So anytime where you get a full flat face, that's an indication that the closing of the fill hole operation is correct. Again, we could make jokes for days. It's all about context, I guess. Let's see, but I will be happy to see the end of these unflattering designs. One thing we could do here is just grab these vertexes here and just press delete, and we should get like a straight line along here. I'm just going to do another fill, triangulate, and we'll do something similar on the other side where we just delete some of these edges. We don't even need this shape to be perfect. As long as we can get it to fill and we triangulate, we have a solid object. Lovely stream. Have a good weekend, Ben. Thank you to Yex. So, alright. Now all that remains is to just close off these holes. So, my ambition to get 2 pieces on was maybe a little too ambitious. But if I now take this, delete the history, it's not changing colors, we can turn off our... that also usually indicates too that it's not bugged. So we can try exporting this. I'm going to export selected. We will go into our export folder, small craft, prototypes, and I'm going to make a new folder called 50-ton modular cutter. And then we're going to put this in cutter for ventral, technically it's dorsal, and section 1, and actually we'll call this, instead of spine, we'll call it spine, and we'll take out dorsal because we don't need to indicate it's dorsal on the spine. Section 1, and we will save this. So export selection. We can then clear our build plate here, import in, assuming we're getting to the correct module, folder. This geometry, we can see it does have some issues, 12 open edges, that's nothing major or serious. I can't really see where the issues are, so they're likely to be small. It looks like it's along here. So if I just run netfab, this will make the model solid. Thing to check for after running a netfab operation is that all of the geometry looks as it should. So here I can see that all my clip holes and everything looks like what it's supposed to be. Again, this won't be a fine because there should be, some flooring and that in there. So I'm just going to flip this over, and we can now export this as is and just test slicing it. Let's see. There we go. That looks good. It should print. It should take about 5 hours to do so. We can see that structurally we're going to have some strength that will work in the opposite direction to what the support rods are. So together they will work really well. We don't have any dark blue overhangs here, which indicates that the build plate's going to print as intended. So I think the thing that remains is to set this going. I need to clear my physical build plate. I need to get this mesh wrapped up. So I'm going to say, guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. We'll be back next week. Hopefully I'm feeling a little bit better too. And yeah, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye.